Hello, my name is Bryson Thomas, and today I'll be speaking to you about why college athletes should be paid. So some of you may not know this, but only 2% of college athletes actually go pro. That means only 9,200 out of 460,000 athletes actually make it to the big leagues. If you're playing a college sport, that takes away so much of your time, if not all of your time. It doesn't give you any time to actually have a job. That is your job, and that's the only thing you can do. When you're not at practice, you're at school, and when you're not at school, you're at practice. Some people may be thinking, well, if they enjoy doing it, then why should they get paid to do it? I can ask that same question to every person who has a job. If you're a construction worker and you enjoy doing construction work, should you be paid to do it? You still should. It's your job. Just like these athletes, it's their job to play the sport. 86% of college athletes live below the poverty line, and that means they can't afford to keep food on the table and water running. Now, luckily, about a year ago, free food was established for all D1 college athletes, but Division II and Division III athletes still have to find a way to make money. Now, as of right now, there's a punishment for paying your college athletes, and that brings me to my next point on the death penalty. So this is probably not the death penalty that you're thinking of, but this is the college athletics death penalty. And I'm not sure about all the other sports, but I know this has only happened one time in football. And believe it or not, my dad was actually at the school when it happened. And basically what happened is Southern Methodist University, also known as SMU, was caught giving their players gifts. And the more they won, the more gifts they would receive. So sometimes my dad would see players walking around with, driving around with cool cars and gifts that they won from winning their games. And in 1987, they were caught. Their season was canceled, and many of the athletes probably transferred out as many coaches were fired. This can damage the team so severely, and no team should have to go through this, as it caused SMU 30 years until they recovered. So I want you to put yourself in the feet of a college athlete, and I want you to imagine you're a college athlete and you're just coming out of college. You didn't make it to the big leagues, and even though you have a great education and you can find a job really fast, what if you don't have a home to go back to? Maybe you don't have the best relationship with your parents, or maybe you were homeless before you got the chance to play the sport. It still can be very hard to actually find a place to stay, because although you may be making money every day, it's going to take you a long time to actually afford a place to stay. This can ruin many college athletes' lives, and if they just got a little bit of money from the millions of dollars that these schools make, as long as these schools can give a little bit of that money back to the people who are making the money, everything would be resolved. The NCAA is hoping to start paying their college athletes by late 2022, and I really hope that they push for that goal. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Aaron Mullen, and today I'll be talking to you about the importance of financial literacy. So, for the good or the bad, money touches all aspects of life. That is why we need to know and practice financial literacy. But first, let's talk about what financial literacy really means. So financial literacy is defined as the possession of the set of skills and knowledge that allows an individual to make informed and effective decisions with all of their financial resources. Essentially, financial literacy means your foundation with your relationship with money. So possessing financial literacy gives you knowledge and ability to successfully manage your finances. So now let's talk about why financial literacy is so important. So financial literacy is actually increasing in importance as people now are managing their own retirement accounts, they're trading personal assets, medical, credit card, and other daily necessities that we will all use when we turn 18. Knowing these skills will help you manage your money effectively and intelligently. Without these key skills of life, you will lack solid foundation that we need for success. So, a study shows by the National Financial Educators Council, out of 1,300 teens and young adults, the average score on a financial literacy test was a 58%. This was absolutely eye-opening to me because, at least in our educational curriculum, 58% is a failing grade. That's pretty sad. This just proves that financial literacy is lacking in our current educational curriculum in our schools. So we can change this, but only 1/3 of all of our U.S. states require personal finance as a class for you to take. This is also very eye-opening to me because that is probably the root of why a 58% was the average score on a financial literacy test. So I think middle schools and high schools should implement mandatory financial literacy courses in addition to math courses required. And I say this because math and financial literacy, they kind of work together because they both use mathematics and they both have a bunch of formulas to make us know how to do financial literacy and stuff. So in this course, it will teach students financial skills that will be needed to transform from dependency into independency. So right now, we're all independent from our parents or our guardians. And once we turn 18, we're gonna have to be independent. So parents and guardians can assist by including children in basic household finances and costs associated with like a rent or even tax bill, electrical, power, so all that. So financial literacy should be taught as early as possible. If not, it will have painful consequences on our life. The bottom line is that our generation really struggles with teaching and practicing financial literacy. We are slowly making progress, like how our school implements a personal finance class, but we still have a very long way to go. Thank you.
Have you ever been in a situation where you're really stressing out or not thinking highly of yourself? Hi, my name is Oliver Spalding, and today I will be talking to you about the power of positivity. Positivity can benefit you in many ways, such as lower rates of stress, lower rates of depression, and a stronger mental health. I'm sure many of you know what positivity means, but for those that don't know, positivity is the practice of being or tendency to be positive or optimistic in attitude. Many of you earlier were able to think of a situation where you felt nervous about the outcome. You may be surprised that positivity will help the outcome of it. One way to do this is to reframe the situation as a challenge. This allows you to focus on how you can find a way to fix the problem. By focusing on how you will conquer the challenge, you are changing the way you think about it. If you think you will do good at something, you will do good. If you think of the situation negatively, by stressing out, you will not do as good if you are thinking positively. For example, when I found out that I had to perform a nice form speech, I did not think I could do it. However, I chose a topic that I can talk about and started thinking positively about my speech, empowering me to write my speech with confidence. When facing stressful situations, optimists turn out to deal with it better than a pessimist. Instead of thinking of that situation where you are stressing, think of how you can overcome that situation, because positivity can lower rates of stress for you. Everyone faces stressful situations many times in your life, but not everyone knows how to face these situations properly. If you just think about them positively, you may have a better outcome than if you were thinking about it negatively or stressing out about it. One time when I had 2 hockey games in one day, I lost the first one because my team was unprepared, and I told them after the first game that we had to think that we were going to win the second game, and we ended up winning. Positivity can also lower your rates of depression and gain a stronger mental health. Researchers have found that in a crisis situation, like a terrorist attack or a natural disaster, positive thoughts and emotions provide an advantage against depression among resilient people. According to Johns Hopkins Medicine, positive people from the general population are 13% less likely to die from a heart attack or other mental health problem. If you just think positive of yourself, you will have a stronger mental health. Thinking positive also has an impact on your overall well-being, a reduced risk of death from cardiovascular problems, less depression, and an increased lifespan. In conclusion, positivity can benefit you in many ways in your everyday life. I'm going to leave you with a quote from Winston Churchill. A positive thinker sees the invisible, feels the intangible, and achieves the impossible. Thank you for listening to my presentation, and I hope you'll look on the bright side next time.
Did you know that 1 in 5 Americans have a mental illness? I'm Nicholas Wilbur, and this is my Knights Forum presentation on why police need better training on how to de-escalate situations with mentally ill people. To begin this presentation, I'd like to show two vital terms. The first is neurotypical. A neurotypical person doesn't display any atypical signs of thought or behavior. This means that they don't have any mental illnesses, or they haven't developed one. This doesn't mean that they don't have any problems with their mental health, it just means that they don't have any illness or handicaps. The next is neurodivergent. A neurodivergent person is someone who is born or develops a mental illness. These can be more mild or severe depending on how much they affect someone in everyday life. An example of more of a mild case is ADHD. Someone with ADHD wouldn't be as affected in everyday life as someone with BPD or schizophrenia. 42 million adults a year struggle with mental illness, and 2 million of them a year are jailed. With how many situations where a mentally ill person is jailed, you have to think that the police have a very good system and training on how to de-escalate situations with mentally ill people. But this isn't the case. Only 12 hours are devoted in a large training to police being able to de-escalate situations with mentally ill people, 8 of which are actually mentally ill people, 4 of which are neurotypicals. 10% of police interactions are with mentally ill people. So a lot of these situations are turned violent. In fact, 25% of police shootings have mentally ill victims. This causes a violent stigma that can cause a very stressful environment for the people that are a part of this number or aren't and are just mentally ill and dealing with police interaction. Because of the lack of police training, a lot of people are in this category where they're scared of police interactions. One example of this is Jeffrey Harzma. 2 officers came to his house for a welfare check. One of them entered his house knowing his mental history, and only one came in, which was not safe or cautious, and it was, to be honest, ignorant. He was in the middle of a breakdown, and the officer was attacked, and she had to defend herself using her firearm, which killed Jeffrey Harzma. The St. Pete Sheriff's Office said that this was an ignorant death that could have easily been avoided. With better training, I'm sure it would have been, because it was ignorantly handled and they weren't cautious enough at all. The final reason that I believe that we should better train our police to de-escalate situations with mentally ill victims is to put an end to all mental health stigmas. Whether it's the violent stigma because of all of the lethal interactions with mentally ill people, or just the regular stigma that mental illness is a bad thing when it's only something that makes you different. More people would be encouraged to get help with therapy, with a psychologist, or with medication, and a lot of people don't. In fact, the number one reason that people don't get therapy or help is because of judgment. They don't want to be judged by the stigmas of mental illness and getting help with it. To conclude my presentation, I would like to ask if I changed your perspective on the stigma and police interactions with mentally ill people. And I hope I changed your mind and showed you why we need to better train our police on de-escalation tactics with mentally ill people. Thank you for watching my presentation.